Now, Balak accuses Bilam of being interested in personal honor. And I think this is one of the most common put-downs. And I think it's a cheap shot, because I think all of us are interested in kavod, in honor, in being honored, except for the great tzaddikim. Like some of the great tzaddikim, they don't need honor. But you notice that in Jewish life, we go, oh, he just wants kavod. It's one of the most common put-downs. But I think it's a cheap shot, because except with the exception of like really saintly characters, we all want honor. Like, it may not be maftir on Yom Kippur, we may not be, but we may want honor from our peers in writing, or in comedy, or among fellow teachers, or among certain social strata. But like honor and the desire for honor is about among the most basic of human drives. I know it's really important to me. I really would love to be in a more prestigious position with a more high-tech webcam and with thousands of viewers right now instead of a dozen.
That's gaiva. That's not really honor. That's gaiva. You know what gaiva is?
Go ahead.
Honor is kavod, right? You want kavod. Gaiva is like ego. You know, you have like this huge ego drive, and it needs to be satisfied, satiated with everybody paying, respect to you. That's higher. That's more than just kavod. That's gaiva. And the other thing that people have a drive for is taiva, which is a lust. That'd be like a lust for women, but they could actually be the same. If your lust is you get off, by how big you are, and your gaiva and your taiva like start to converge. Do you think that's stronger than the drive for women?
I'd say it's about as strong. Because the drive for women is not like, it's not a normal drive in that it's like this. Sometimes it goes like really, really high and it's just burning intensely. Then it may go away for a few hours or even a few days. If you're like really sick, or let's say you're broke and you have to pay some bills, and like you're so scared about being able to pay your bills, which has happened to me. I don't think about having sex with women when I'm like scared for my survival, if I'm really sick, if I'm scared for some other reason, if I fear I might lose a limb, or like if something else, my lust for women goes away. And then other time my lust for women is just stratospheric. But my desire for social prestige and to avoid social humiliation is pretty constant most of the time. How about you? Do you want prestige?
Well, I heard a rabbi that I once heard a Vort say something like this, that it really depends on what age group the guy is in. That when you're like 16, 17, 18, 19, you're not really going for the prestige so much as you're just driven towards chicks.
Right.
That's all you can think. You can't think about anything other than chicks. It dominates you. Like, you gave that thing, you're like hanging up there on the top of that mountain. A guy who's like 70, 80 years old, he's not thinking about chicks all the time anymore.
Right.
He just wants to be, he's working about his legend. They always talk about the second-term president. He's working about his legend.
Yeah.
Basically, he's like full of himself at that point, right? He's like a big ego whore, right? And he's worried about prestige, and that's going to dominate him. And you know what? This is what the Rav said. He said, that's the way God designed us. That's not a problem.
Right.
Because the big Yetzer Hora when you're 19
is lust.
The big Yetzer Hora when you're 80 is leaving a dent in the world.
And in between it's money.
In between it's money, right? In between it's money. But God is okay with that. When a guy who's 40 is chasing after money and he wants to buy fancy cars and whatnot, God's okay with that because that's how God designed him. When a 19-year-old, is shooting his wad all over the place because all he wants to do is have sex with every chick that he's ever seen, that's okay because that's how God created him. When President Clinton, President Bush are in their final term and all they're talking about is their legend, that's okay because that's how God created them. But what God doesn't understand is when the 18-year-old is worried about leaving his legend already, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And when Clinton is chasing after Monica Lewinsky, these are the wrong Yetzer Horas.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm reading some of the Ratzi sections.
Wait a minute. I'm hearing Rabs, we have questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jana.
We're here. Meanwhile, I'm going to read
Jenna,
you
go ahead.
some racy excerpts from the ArtScroll commentary. The Moabite women invited the Jews to feast and drink with them. When the men became aroused and wanted to cohabit, the women drew their Baal Peor idols from their robes and insisted that the Jewish men bow to them.
That's how you do it.
I mean, I think of myself as a pretty morally strong guy, but like you give me good food and drink, and like scantily clad women,
You'll bow down to anything.
and they say, hey, before I'll give you a happy ending, you just have to bow down to this little statue here.
You're a sucker. She says, scroll up to the beard section.
Wants to know about. It's hard to scroll up because every time they make a new comment, it will scroll back down.
Scroll.
Is that kosher water?
Oh yeah. Okay. The water is from Arrowhead, and it should have an OU here somewhere. Here. Should I put this on this screen? The OU here on the Arrowhead drinking water. Yes.
Well, they talked about, what are your thoughts about men and beards? Can they shave if they're in the army and the military prohibits them? Because the military has a problem getting enough Orthodox chaplains.
Oh, okay.
Because Orthodox rabbis generally want to have a beard, and the military prohibits beards.
Oh.
So she's asking you a halakhic question whether it's permitted for an Orthodox rabbi who joins the military to be a chaplain to cut his beard.
I mean, I'm not a poskening Rav.
Yeah, you're not.
I'm not a poskening Rav.
He doesn't dictate.
I don't have to do halacha, but I'm. That's the kind of thing you want to ask a Rav.
Yeah.
You go to your local Orthodox rabbinic authority and ask them a question like that. But I mean, first of all, there are a lot of heterim, a lot of leniencies, a lot of exceptions to the whole thing about a beard to begin with. I'm sure that shouldn't be a problem at all because there's, if like tomorrow, you can. There's plenty of Jewish guys who shave, right? And I'm sure they all have heterim for it. They have exceptions for it, and so I don't think that would be a problem. But I'm not the guy to poskin, I'm not.
Clearly, a beard is the traditional Jewish thing. I mean,
it's a very important thing.
Two different texts in the Torah which limit the cutting or shaving of the beard. So certainly, if you can, that is the way to go.
Right. Now, you mentioned the chaplain thing. I'm just going to digress.
Absolutely.
I don't know anything about the Army, okay, but I know the Navy. The Navy on 3 different times has tried to recruit me as a chaplain.
You'd be great.
Okay. You want to know something? They don't have a clue. They have no clue. They put it in the base midrash of the yeshiva I was learning in. They put it on the wall. Hey, come to our seminar, our training thing to become a chaplain, right? It's on Saturday in like San Francisco, right? On Saturday, you can't you have to break Shabbos to become a chaplain in the Navy. They are completely clueless. But 3 times they've tried to recruit me for that, and somebody has to please clue the Navy in that Jews can't do this on Saturday. Have their thing like on a Thursday, and maybe I would have been there. But whatever. Okay, I just wanted to mention that the Navy is clueless. Maybe the Army is better.
Why do you care so much about the Lakers?
Oh, I can answer that. I can't. It's not logical. It's not logical. Well, you've been reading my statuses on Facebook? Okay. It's not logical, but it's a thing like this. I grew up a sports fan. I'm heavily addicted to sports. It's huge by me, okay? Huge into the Lakers. I grew up a Lakers and a hockey fan. I'm a Ducks fan, a Kings fan. I grew up a UCLA sports fan. UCLA tonight, I don't know where we are right now, but at like 6 o'clock, don't tell me the score. The UCLA baseball team is playing TCU. They're in, the World Series. I'm a sports geek, okay? And I know that it's a distraction. It's a distraction from Torah is what it is, right? When I went to yeshiva, and I was buried in yeshiva and learning 24/7, 365, and that's all I was doing, right? I said, you know what? This is a great time to break this addiction to sports. Because I'm not going to be. I'm in Eretz Israel right now. I'm in the land of Israel. I'm separated completely from everything. There was no newspapers anywhere around.
Right.
There was no radio, there was no TV, nobody was talking about sports. I'm learning Torah 24/7. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be great. I'm going to come out of here and I'm never going to think about sports again, and we're going to kill this whole